listening to the Spirit Podcast.
Welcome back, Spirit Seekers and Soul Rememberers. You're listening to the Spirit, the podcast where the sacred is strange and the strange is sacred. I'm your host, Beck, joined as always by my co-host, the radiant reflection in every mirror of the soul, Rachel.
Hello, hello.
Today's guests bring with them a message woven in power, vulnerability, and deep remembrance. Together, they co-authored a book that isn't just a read, it's an activation. It's called The Orchid, The Secret Code of Modern Goddesses, and it serves as a loving nudge, a spiritual mirror, and a bold invitation for women to rise into their truth, healing, and sovereignty. Joining us, Rocio Aquino, an intuitive guide and awakening catalyst, and Angel Orengo, an advocate for inner work and masculine support of the divine feminine. Their partnership, both on the page and in spirit, is something rare, heartfelt, and full of resonance. They've worked with major players like Sony Pictures, Time Magazine, and Nickelodeon. But today, they're here not to talk media empires, but soul empires, the inner kind. Rocio, Angel, welcome to the Spirit. We're so glad to have you both.
How beautiful introduction. Really listen to you guys already. I feel in harmony and calm. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. Let's start at the root of it all. How did the orchid come into being?
You know, I was looking for forgiveness. How do you forgive somebody and how really can move from a place of pain to a place of let go and really free yourselves. So at one point we did an investment and we lose all the money. Angel, he was perfect to let go everything. And for me it was very difficult because was somebody that I love a lot. So in my family, normally I was conditioned to think that when somebody betray you, you stop talking to them. In this case, I don't want to do that. So I was asking people, how do you forgive? Please tell me the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And really, not many people can tell you the steps. So after searching, because the universe is like that, is fantastic, and you put a question, the universe gives you the answers. So after a search that took us from Hong Kong, then we went and live in London. And after I arrived to LA, I was able to see somebody who was living a fantastic life with an ex-husband. And it's like how you did this? And she's like spiritual psychology is a master's, go and study. So I went with Angel. So we went, and after 2 years, after the first year, I saw myself how all the pain that I was carrying was really leaving my body. And in that moment, I was with Angel, how we can share this with the world. Let's do a TV show.
You know, all this was coinciding with my exit from my corporate career. And the most important thing is that, well, I kind of laugh because there's a part of me that needs to say this is what we are telling you is in this reality, we're looking back and seeing at all the steps that took place. But really, there was a grand plan of how this was going to happen. And really, we were just listening to that plan and acting accordingly. And the plan was divine. And we were led and guided and inspired to really take all these steps. And so when we are in this process of introspection, we grow, we change dramatically to the point that leads us to where Rocio just said. And at that point, we said, yeah, but before we do a television show, which was not a crazy idea because we come from that world and we could potentially do so. And we said, well, why don't we write a book? And that's how the idea of the book comes to life. And then we were crazy enough and inspired enough to see it through.
It's not every day that we see a man co-authoring a book about the divine feminine. How did your path guide you into this role?
It's really interesting, and it's a question that is asked a lot for obvious reasons. But the day that we were standing in our kitchen and Rocio came to me and said, hey, I had a dream last night. And the dream basically said that the project needs to be about women. And at that point, as I'm holding my hot cup of coffee, I just looked at my life. And the best that I can tell you is that I looked at everyone who had participated, influenced, inspired, mentored me. And many times, those people were women. My mom, my grandmother, bosses. I have 2 daughters with Rocio. So, I mean, it made so much sense so quickly. And then the other thing that I will tell you is that across the way, I believe I've been channeling and carrying feminine energy, and that it comes out and it's full of a lot of love and understanding. And I am passionate about it. So when the project arose, it just made so much sense. And there's been many other things that have supported that, but those are essentially the reasons. And I also do believe that we've separated the divine masculine and feminine to mean something. But the truth and the fact of the matter is that we are both masculine and feminine.
Absolutely.
And so ultimately, it is that balance. And when you achieve it, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter what you're doing, when you actually achieve that balance, it really does open doors and power. And it's incredible.
We did an episode last week, a recording about the divine feminine. It's especially important to know and to be educated about it because we feel like there's such an imbalance between the masculine and the feminine right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, 100%. That's why the book is beautiful, because what is given is activation and how you can alchemize the pain and to learn how to forgive and move forward, because we're going to become stronger in the moment that we understand that we can heal the past and we are here in this generation to do it. So if we support each other and we begin to give all this information out, more people are going to be able to do it for themselves, to do this alchemy inside of them, to really heal, find harmony, and then from a place of love, understanding, and empowerment, they can move in what is coming next. So that's why the book come to us, because we were ready to really bring this message to the world. You know, at one point, I was in a crossroads to see if I can continue to do this job or not. And really, with such a powerful necessity of my part to really bring this message to more people, for there they can see how you can do it and it's not so difficult, and how we can hold the space for people to do it.
It's healing ancestral wounds. We're coming into the age of Aquarius, which is the divine feminine. It's a counterbalance between the masculine and the feminine. Your timing is perfect. Can you share how you complement each other in the creation process, and maybe even how you challenge one another?
Yeah, absolutely. When this all started, and when I say all, I mean the writing of the book, it really was, for whatever reason, as Angel grew and became the person that he is today, he was always in touch with his feelings, even though he couldn't explain it. And there was a rather large amount of wisdom. I can see that now, that I carried with me, even though I couldn't explain it. Sayings, and the sayings that have been shared across generations for hundreds of years, were very simple for me. I understood them, I would say them very often, and I lived by them in many ways. One of them that became sort of a mantra for the book was life is 10% what happens and 90% how you react. So when we sat down and Rocio would ask me about my process, I didn't have words to explain. But as she was experiencing hers, she had an incredible amount of detail as to how the energy was moving in her body. And as she experienced different modalities of energy movement or different healers and different teachers and guides, she was able to come back and have a really rich detail of explanation as to what she was going through. So our first array into the book was really me with this sense of harmony and understanding of what she was going through. I somehow understood it, and it was like, of course. And I was starting to put pieces together, and she was experiencing it. So you could say that in the beginning of the book, all I really was doing was observing her as she was experiencing herself. And as she experienced herself, I experienced myself. So really, it was this collaboration of roles, little by little, that expanded so that she became more sure of herself and her process. And I became more sure of my process, and I was able to talk about it. And today I can sense, not as much as she does, but I can sense some energy in my own body and speak to it in ways that I wasn't able to speak before. And really, it was that collaboration. The story of the book is a woman gets divorced, brokenhearted, goes around the world for 10 years, which is symbolic of our 10 years living outside of the United States, finds herself by basically connecting to everything that she experiences, like doing a very intentional life trip, if you will. And as she does that, she thinks she's going to do it to heal her broken heart, but really what she finds is so much greater. So she then decides to begin a place called the Orchid, which is like a 5-star resort focused on healing, on love, and finding inner love. And there we meet 5 women, of many, but we only following 5. So when the book begins, Rocio was the 5 women. She was every pain that was being carried. And we speak about divorce, we
Yes.
speak about anger, we speak
Sexual abuse.
sexual abuse. And I was somewhat of the wisdom of the place.
Yes.
And then it was beautiful to shift that. By the end of the book, we were both the wisdom and the women.
You speak to ancestral trauma and generational pain, particularly among women. How do you see this being passed down, and what are some of the first steps to begin unbinding it?
So I have 2 daughters, and I didn't know that the generational trauma passed until I begin to see it. The same patterns was happening in my kids. So at that point, understanding that I was a wounded soul, a wounded child, and I begin to heal myself. So I was able to see that my kids, they were fighting, like all the patterns, they were really showing themselves again. So at the moment when you begin to heal your wounds with your father, with your mother, all these really apply all the tools, you begin to see the event from a more neutral perspective. And in the moment that you begin to see that you heal and you begin to come to your life for more neutral, then you can change the perspective, you can change how you relate with anything. So that's why it's so important that we really go inside of ourselves to clean or to say thank you for everything in the past and heal ourselves. That's why it's important the circles of women to hold each other with a lot of love and understanding because we've been carrying so much wound for the last 500 years.
Amen.
So in the moment that we clean it, then we are able to be in the present moment with all our energy. And that helps us to create a better future. For example, I used to create my life from a place of lack, and now I create my life from a place of abundance, creativity, and understanding. So that's the difference. I used to see the glass always empty. And that's why when I saw Angel, that he was always full, his glass, I didn't understand how. So I tried to describe him that I used to grow up in a household that my family was a victimhood. Like all the things happened to them. And you really don't know until you understand that you can have other options to think, to act. So little by little, we were broken with all the patterns that we grew up with, and we are forming new ones. And that's the proposal that we want to bring with the book. That at the end, it's important your past and heal. But from now on, you are in charge of what is happening right now.
And not only are you in charge, you are perfectly capable of going inside and finding all the answers to all of those questions and all of those issues. We've been led to believe life experiences, limiting beliefs, that we are unable to do that. But we have these powers. And what we do through the book is to teach 5 of them simply through the stories of these women. And the 5 powers are awareness, gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance, and intention. That when you go deeply into each one of them, they really are just incredible. And really, you do become incredibly powerful. And we observe as we were going through our changes, we really were blessed because we saw generational changes in our immediate family. Our daughters were changing as we were changing ourselves. They were changing even before we sat down with them to teach them about the things, simply because we were being different. And the same happened on the other side of the spectrum with my mother, who at 74, 75 was also experiencing changes because I was changing. It was really fantastic to observe.
There's a boldness in this book, a refusal to be silent. What gave you the courage to write about such personal raw material, and what would you say to those who are afraid to speak their truth?
It's so beautiful what you just asked. You know that all the difficulties don't define you. They teach you, they don't define who you are. So, yes, can feel very heavy when you are in a depression. But the smallest steps that you take is the steps that you can really put in a moment for you to feel better about yourself. I was at one point 33 years ago, I tried to kill myself. And my mom, she just passed away. She was 48. And she didn't have the tools, she didn't have the knowledge for all this sadness. She was carrying with her so much pain, and I was carrying the pain with her. So at one point she passed away, and I was not able to figure it out how to drop it neither. So I went to therapy, and I was little by little, step by step, finding my way in life. And I was follow all the clues that people tell you to do. For example, you're gonna be happy in the moment that you have a title or a work or a couple and then a house and then a kid, that path. And really, I was following that path, and I feel like I was not complete. So was until I really went inside of me that I was achieving the transformation, was the freedom of my fully potential. Because in the moment that you heal yourself, then all the pain disappears. So that's why it's so important to have the courage to come here and tell these stories, because then that doesn't have an effect on me anymore. That doesn't define me. And I'm not special. And that's why I want to tell more people to know that I didn't went to the Himalayas and sit down in a cavern for 22 years. You can do it in your everyday life and feel better about yourself.
I'm very, very excited to read your book. The way that you have described and what you have put of yourself into it, I love that it is telling a story too. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino.
Yes, of course.
That is
Yes.
what it makes me think of. And I thought that was a beautiful book. And I'm so excited to read this book. And I think a big part of healing and being able to let go of that pain. I just finished a book today called Chris Beats Cancer. And the last part of the healing process is forgiveness. And even having to hear that, it's such a hard thing to be able to forgive things like that. So this book just seems like it's going to dissect to really figure out how we can have that forgiveness and let that pain go in our heart.
Why did you choose a novel and not a self-help guide to share this healing message?
We had seen our travels around the world, saw how powerful media and communication was. We were one day traveling to the desert, in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. And we were there, the four of us, Rocio, myself, and our two daughters who were quite young at the time. And we stopped at a gurt in the middle of nowhere, a tent. And we had maybe driven for 5 hours on unpaved roads and maybe had not seen anyone in the last 3 hours. And I kid you not, we walked into the tent and there is a television set connected to a dish antenna, and they're watching a Hollywood movie. The power of storytelling is profound. We have been doing it for millions of years, sitting around the fire and telling stories. And when we were thinking about writing our book, we really did have a few minutes of, well, what is it, a self-help book? Is it about us? And something in us directed us to say, no, it's not about us. It's about telling the stories. And the reason is so that people don't put up that wall, that protective shield that immediately goes up when somebody says, hey, I have some thoughts for you, or let me give you my opinion, or read this book, it's going to help you. Immediately, something subconsciously goes up, but not with stories, not when we're being led into observe how someone is dealing with something. And the other thing that we applied in the book that made it different too is that traditionally in storytelling, we hear about the drama in people's lives. And we spend, if it's a movie, we spend, the greater part of that movie seeing what that drama has done to them. And only towards the end do we see the unraveling of that. And we don't even know how they did it, what happened inside of them, what changed in order for them to think differently, act differently, and find that courage to do whatever. We wanted the novel to be that 10% about what happened to the women and 90% about the process that the women were following at the Orchid, the things that they were learning, the exercises, the conversations they were having that led them out of that dark place towards the light of their inner love. And so that's why we did it as a novel. We wanted it to be more powerful than us telling our story, which I'm sure would connect with people, what we felt would not connect with as many people as a novel would.
I have to agree. Angel, from your perspective as a man who supports this work, how can men be true allies in the rise of the feminine without overshadowing it or fearing it?
There's so many ways to do that. I think the first thing, and I think that's true regardless of gender, go inside, find peace, find the forgiveness, do the work internally. Everyone who is listening, everyone who is talking here still has work to do. We all do. And so the moment that you, at the very least, open yourself to that, it's almost like the moment that you ask the question, the answers will appear. This is why we chose awareness as number one of the lessons, because the invitation is to look at yourself in a mirror, look at yourself as if you're looking at a play, the play of your life, and you are the main performer. Do you like what you see? Does it hurt people? Is it kind? If you love it and you like it, by all means, continue doing it. And if you don't, then ask yourself, would you consider changing it? That's the invitation for the men, right? Number one. Number two, and you alluded to this before, for a long time, this has been a patriarchal society. The equivalent of that to me, as someone who's worked with teams of people around the world, it's like walking into a boardroom with, I don't know, 10 people and saying to half the group, you guys, we're not going to listen to your ideas. We're not going to even consider them. So please don't even bother. Stay here, look pretty. You don't exist. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't happen. And so the invitation is start thinking, for the men out there, start thinking that what really, anything we do to enhance the strength of the women around us, it's going to help the world, because it's like we're an organism in two legs walking, but one leg is weighted down and not being allowed to play its part in the walking exercise. And so I think that there's a lot to be done, a lot to be gotten. I think we've been sold a bill of goods, both men and women, that can change. There's no reason why men, I mean, traditionally were, oh, you're the breadwinner. You have to go and you have to go and do this. And it's your responsibility to provide. In our household, we don't see that. In our household is we both contribute. The ideas, the way Rocio thinks about them is different than I do.
I
And
want
that
to add something. You know how it's so important that I was in a partnership with Angel. He gave me the space for me to evolve. And when I was evolving, he was freeing himself too. So that gives us the opportunity to work in partnership, these beautiful energies, what we bring on the table. So thanks to this process that happened, Angel is more free right now because this happened. So any person who is there, really you can explore yourself and then explore yourself with a partnership. Depends what is your situation. But remember, people has been telling us stories to women and they were saying the same stories to men, almost to keep us separate. And if we begin to build bridges to really come together, we're going to be more strong.
I love it.
Hey, Spirit Seekers! Enjoying the show? Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Spirit. Leave us a review on Apple or Spotify and share the love. We drop a new video every week on our YouTube channel covering paranormal, conspiracy, high strangeness, and more. Have questions or want to share your own spooky story? Drop us a line at tothespiritpod@gmail.com. Stay spirited.
Let's talk shadow. You don't shy away from the darker terrain of healing. How do you both approach shadow work in your own lives, and what do you believe people get wrong about it?
Oh, interesting. You have so many great questions.
Thank you.
One of the things that's helped me tremendously, and it goes back to another question you asked earlier, and is to not shy away from our opportunities and the things that need healings, the wounds that need closing, because really ultimately that's what healing is open wounds that still remain from whatever age. And the moment that we allow them to heal and close, we feel better about ourselves. And so for me, one of the things that I do regularly, for example, I was sexually abused when I was probably 7, 8, or 9. It's not clear to me, but it doesn't matter anymore, but it's around that age. And every time I speak to it, I do a scan in my body to sense whether there is energy still stored there that feels uncomfortable, a little tingling, whatever. Because if there is, then that is what is telling me, there's an opportunity to heal a little bit more, or maybe it's back and there's an opportunity to give it more love. So that's one approach. We don't shy away from it anymore because we took away the guilt and the shame and the blame away from that process. When we were at our best and our worst, it's because something was trying to defend us, to protect us, to really keep us from harm. And we've read so many books about different approaches. Elizabeth Gilbert, in her book, Big Magic, there's a great part in which he says, and one day, as I was dealing with my ego, I told my ego, okay, this is it. We're going on a trip. Creativity, you and me. Creativity, ego, and Elizabeth. You, ego, you're going to sit in the back and you're not even going to touch the radio in the car. And, when you start looking at those aspects of you that shadow as opportunities for growth, but at the same time, parts of you that were helpful at some point that may no longer be, can easily take a step aside because you're now in a different stage of your life. You're now with more power, more control over who you are. just starts to change it. So, in essence, we embraced the process. We really said, oh, this is yielding something. I can see the value of forgiveness when I started to understand. And by the way, all this came, and we try to portray this in the book, in the novel, in the Orchid, that there's so much wisdom from different parts of the world: Eastern medicine, religion, ancestral tribes. And so we started picking a little bit from everything and putting our own puzzle together, the puzzle that worked for us. And so that's how I approach my process. My process was, I have to say, a bit lighter than Rocio's. Rocio's was a
Yes.
lot deeper. You want to speak to it?
We can have another episode only about my shadow because my shadow used to take control of my life. And in my case was so much insecurity, so much pain that until the moment I begin to make peace with that heaviness, I was able to understand that is there, but I can redirect what is her mission. And now is even my friend, my shadow. So it's possible, but you need to really work hard inside of you for really break all the limitations, all the molds, all the what people has been telling you that is difficult, that is painful. So at one point I was able to crack all those to make peace with my shadow.
Can I add something? We've been together for 25 years, 23 of those married. And I remember maybe two or three occasions in which I was having a conversation with someone. I was looking at Rocio, speaking to Rocio, but I kid you not, it felt like I was having a conversation with another person.
Wow.
So when she says it took over me, it really was. And then I will add this, and maybe you want to expand on this one. One day, and this is now when we are deep into our process of introspection and cleansing and healing, I walked into the room and
I was journaling and I was journaling with my shadow and really was a one-on-one fight. Who's gonna take over? My shadow doesn't wanna leave. She wanna continue control. She was super insecure and afraid. And I myself, I was not aware how to be right. So was this conversation, but she was mad that I was taking over and she was losing the control. So what I can describe was like an exercise. No,
exorcism.
yes, what's happening inside of me to really calm that part of myself who was in panic because it's gonna lose control. So after a lot of love, conversation, now she's my friend.
There are many women that are walking around disconnected from their intuition and their bodies and their pleasure. Why do you think this is so common, and how can we begin to come home to ourselves?
Well, 500 years ago, if you had intuition, you were burned. And so repeat that again and again for so long. And every time women came together and were showed their strength, there was something that was another veil, another lie, or another power that was used against them. And so I think that's still within your human bodies, and genetically it's still there. It needs to be awakened and cleansed. That's one approach, one thought.
The most important part is to give yourself permission. And really, we put it in the book, some things that you can say out loud, like I am love, I am power, I am creativity. When you begin to say that kind of words and speak it, you really what you are claiming is your own power. So it's very important that you understand that you are not alone, that this is happening all over the world, that is possible, is possible to do it, to go back to yourself and to really begin to explore all the different modalities to connect with your intuition. I love getting to know people who I go and ask, how do you connect with your intuition? And some people smell, another listen, another feel. And I don't know you guys, Beck and Rachel, how you connect with your intuition. But in my case, I can see things in my right side. It's like I see and I listen a voice. And you guys?
I connect to my intuition by listening, truly listening, not just with my ears, but with my whole being. It's not a lightning bolt, it's more like a whisper behind the noise, a feeling that rises before words form, a knowing that doesn't explain itself but somehow feels ancient and immediate all at once. I've learned that my intuition speaks most clearly when I'm quiet inside, so I create space for it through stillness, through breath, through being in nature, and through rituals that ground me. Sometimes it speaks in dreams, sometimes in symbols. Sometimes it moves through me in a way that feels less like receiving and more like remembering. I trust it most when it feels like both a homecoming and a stretch, a feeling that says, this is the truth, and it will also change you. Intuition isn't something I reach for anymore, it's something I return to. It's the voice of the deeper self, the bridge between the soul and this very human life. And when I follow it, I don't always know where it will lead, but I always know I'll be more myself on the other side.
Definitely feel it within my gut instinct. Also feeling that. And I do get a lot of communication through dreams too.
Hmm.
And a question for the both of you. What is something that women do on a daily basis that is dimming their divine feminine energy? Like something that we're doing on a regular that we're not even realizing that we're doing it, that we're dulling the shine of our feminine energy.
Is when you watch TV and you don't feel good about the TV, you are dimming your life.
I agree.
When you are comparing yourself with somebody else, you are dimming your life. When you don't speak to yourself good, you are dimming your life. I can give you 100 examples of how we give our power away in so many ways. And we need to be super careful.
The orchid feels like a love letter to women, but also a mirror. Have you received any feedback from readers that maybe surprised or
Hmm.
moved you?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
we cry so often
Every day.
of gratitude because remember the message came to us and we are like the stewards, but it's a love letter to ourselves, to the divine feminine, and has been healing a lot of people to feel like so now I can do it in a different way. Oh, so it's a guide for you to really see where you want to go. If you have something that you don't like, you can change it. But if you love doing something, continue to do it. Is at the end is how you can create your experience in this life for your best version of yourselves, how you can create that for you. And is with understanding, with compassion, a lot of compassion, because we choose to be here.
Yes, we do. And I love those 5 pillars, that awareness, that gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance, and intention. What are some of the personal rituals or practices that you use to stay grounded and connected to this path, especially when life gets messy?
I love meditate in the morning. I have 5 meditations that I follow before going out of my bed.
The first one is about it's calling the light. And these are all guided meditations by other people, guides that we love and have come across. So the first one is calling in the light, which essentially is enter into a sacred space. And frankly, everyone can find what that means for each of them. The second one is a deeper meditation about the I am. I am, I can, I will, I am able. The next one is about the body and healing the body. And, it's the physical body, is the emotional body. And so it's all about that. Then we recorded ourselves repeating some mantras about abundance and how abundance is present in our lives. And for everyone who's listening, I'm sure many already know, the universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. And so when you truly embrace these things, when you enter into a mindset of abundance, and what is that? Well, I'm going to treat myself to a nice bath today because I'm worth it. The universe says, yes, you are. And it starts giving things around you that are in that same language, in that same vibration. And finally, we have a few other mantras that are very specific to us. And so everyone can record that and use those as well. And we tend to repeat a lot of them out loud as well to make, again, the power of the word is really important. Depending on the day and how much time we have, today we did about 10 minutes.
And
Sometimes.
yesterday we have 1 hour and a half.
That's right.
Another thing that I love to do is intention. And is when I go to a place and is what is my intention for going to this place, how I'm gonna show up in the world. And that is like I wanna have fun, I wanna be loved. So that's helped me to center myself and to align what is the experience that I wanna create.
I love that. The sanctuary in the book is 400 acres of waterfalls and forests and healing spaces. Do either of you have a real world version of your own orchid where you go to reset and reconnect?
The orchid ultimately is an amalgamation of many experiences that we had around the world. So everything that the reader will experience at the orchid exists somewhere, just not all in the same place. I personally like the redwoods in Northern California. And it so just happens that the orchid in the book, the fictional orchid, is based very near Mount Shasta. And the reason why I love that place, and I don't go as often as I'd love to, but I try to, is because we have there trees that are hundreds of feet tall and thousands of years old. So I can only imagine what they've seen and what wisdom they have to share. And so for me, it's become kind of a sacred place.
You know what is super important? That people understand that the real sanctuary is inside of each one of us. And when you begin to apply your imagination to what do you want to create, is possible. That's why the book is about to create in your imagination your own sanctuary that you can go and have a safe space to really explore yourself, because no one knows what do you want better than yourself. So the orchid is an invitation for you to create and for you to expand and really to create the life that you deserve. That's why it's so important that people begin to ignite and create instead of, okay, it's far away place. No, no, no. Let's connect and take it to your heart, because the heart is what is sending the signal for you to really attract wherever you want.
Oh, beautifully said.
I love that. It's like bringing your piece of heaven down to you It's not a physical place out there. It's within you. It could be in a hammock in your yard underneath the
Yes.
stars. I love that. You talk about divine timing and surrender and a world that constantly pushes hustle. How do you return to that divine rhythm?
I think we've been very intentional to create a space. It's incredible that now, if you enter in my house, you see candles, the music is high frequency, the smell is nice. We really are creating a life that is aligned with our principles. But if I go out and I'm in the traffic, I'm gonna put a podcast like this one, or I'm gonna listen something to make me feel better about who I am. So I'm really conscious for what I bring close to me.
And the things that you mentioned earlier, the meditation, the intention, really play a pivotal part in ensuring that that happens. Because the moment that you center yourself and you find it, and by the way, we've done exercises in public spaces with people where the centering takes 30 seconds. It's simply everybody coming to a quiet moment and breathing together. And that changes it. It's been amazing how people react and what they say after, wow, that was so simple. I need to do that more. So, an invitation to everybody who's listening, just take a moment, find 30 seconds, a minute during various parts of your day to just take a breather, to really just be present. And all of a sudden, your day begins again from a different, more centered space. And it really makes a huge difference.
And you know what I love? I did this and blew my mind. It's like if you have an intention to find joy in your day, allow the universe to surprise you because you're going to begin to see all the joy that you can find in the world.
It's like when you buy a car or are thinking of buying a car of a certain brand and a certain color, and all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere. As Rocio has mentioned, before you exit your house, you say, Dear universe, show me today acts of kindness and allow those to manifest themselves in my life. Or whatever else you want to say. And that brings it present.
This book feels like soul work, and I'm so glad it's out in the world.
No,
Thank you.
If someone listening today feels like they'll never bloom, what seed of truth would you want to plant in them today?
Rocio is indicating that I should read the dedication in the book. And it's very much in line with the answer that we would give anyway. The dedication says, To all who journey through these pages, may you be inspired to rewrite your own narrative and live a life of love, free of limitations, and enriched by the knowledge that you are powerful beyond belief. That's the message. We are not special. We are as special as you are. You listening. You are so powerful. And of course, there are so many ideas, limiting beliefs, powers out there, always reminding us, or at least trying to tell us that we're not, and that the beauty, the happiness, the joy is only found outside of us by doing whatever. If you take a moment to read a book like ours, and it's not just ours, there are so many out there, but really, all of a sudden, to take the moment to go inside of you and start noticing the little changes that take place, little by little, you will start taking these loads of covers that you have that have been dimming the light that you are inside.
So beautifully said. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's close with some soul-fueled fun. Some quick answers, no pressure. Astrological signs.
Aquarium.
Aquarius, our birthday is 6 days apart.
How fitting that we're coming into the age of Aquarius and the divine feminine is beautiful. First flower that comes to mind.
Orchid.
Of course, an
You're
orchid.
obligated. You have to say that. One word to describe the divine feminine.
Sexy.
Magnificent.
Love it. Your favorite sacred object or item on your altar.
A heart.
I have this, it's like a king's shaft, and it's full of crystals. And whenever I feel that I'm off centered, I lay down in my bed, and I tend to be one of those that don't move. And so I just put it on my chest and go to sleep.
One book you think everyone should read besides The Orchid, of course.
Yogananda's.
Autobiography of a Yogi.
Autograph. Yes.
Okay.
Incredible.
For me, one of the books that began an early journey of introspection, one of the early doors that opened, was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh, I love that. Yes. If your soul had a scent, what would it be?
A scent like a smell?
Yes.
The ocean.
Oh, yeah.
The scent that we experience after a wonderful rain in the forest.
Awesome. One place on earth you'd take a woman to help her remember who she is.
I have one while Rocio thinks of hers. I recently, and this has a lot to do with the book and the connection that I've experienced, I recently took a trip to Mary Magdalene's cave in the south of France. And I can only tell you, I was so lucky that I sat there by myself for hours. There was no one else. And it just felt like it was a place I needed to go. And so I would encourage every woman to find places where these amazing goddesses that have existed before us, these divine feminine symbols, have walked, and connect with that energy.
I love it. The mother energy. Rocio,
Yeah.
Angel, thank you.
Thank you for having us. This has been beautiful.
Amazing.
Thank you for showing up with such clarity, heart, and presence. Your work reminds us that healing is not a trend, it's a birthright, and that by sharing our stories, we give others permission to bloom.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the work that you are doing.
Oh, thank you for the work you're doing, the soul work that you're doing. And to our listeners, if the orchid is calling to you, trust that pull. You'll find Rocio and Angel's links in the show notes, and we encourage you to follow their work, reach out, and reconnect with your own inner radiance. As always, stay open, stay rooted, and keep listening to the Spirit.
To the Spirit.
Podcast.
Supernatural science.
I'm ghost.
Psychic. Mystic.
Spirit.
Divine source. Heaven. The dead.
It's magic.